And we are back. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 245. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned, and we will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
GC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. GC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
GC Backer.
Boom. Wow. We are back. Welcome back, everybody, to our Wednesday edition of Behind the ToolBelt. We have another awesome guest today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hopefully, you're on your lunch break catching us. But if you're catching us on the replay, don't forget to like, love, and subscribe to Behind the ToolBelt on your favorite platforms, because we are probably streaming on most of them nowadays. So anyhow, Reggie Brock, my man. I didn't tell you this earlier, but I got goosebumps. I do. I'm so thrilled that you're on the show. You've complimented. This has been a great year for Behind the ToolBelt. We've had some amazing guests on the show, and you just compliment that well. So thank you for agreeing to come on the show, allowing us to take you hostage for about an hour here and pick your brain so you can share your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge with our viewers, our listeners. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. So
it's an honor, man. I mean, I'm looking at the screen now and watching that advertisement coming in. I'm standing amongst giants. I mean, like all these sponsors you have, great friends of mine who do great things in the industry. And the fact of the matter is, you're just really great people. And then seeing the kind of the reel of guests that you already had, me being episode 245 is a real honor. So Todd, thank you so very much for I've seen you and watched your show at different events. And so I'm just privileged to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Why, basically I'm practicing. Each week has been a practice. People still are following us. They're watching us. They're liking us. They're commenting. And it's just something that, I didn't grow up in the audio video industry or anything like that. It's just something that we wanted to start to plug a charitable event that we had going on in our local area, and it's kind of stuck. And each week we've gotten a little better at it. Vic's getting real good at the audio video thing, and I'm articulating the message a little bit clearer today, I think, and speaking clearly. And I don't want to get too polished, but I don't want to get away from my authenticity. But I do want to have a clear message to hopefully impact somebody that might be listening. And really, when I've identified that, I'm not doing this for me, and how many ums or ands or F bombs I might have dropped, and how did I sound or how did I look, when I got rid of that mentality, because I'll be honest with you, I did struggle with that for a while. Like, oh man, I sounded dumb. That's not what this is about. It didn't even start out because of that. But I did worry quite often about those things, and I felt like it was holding me back. And now we both know what this is about, why we do this.
I think it's important what you just said that people need to hear. When you can learn, at least in short doses, to take your eyes off yourself, what you want, what you're gaining from it, and really focus your attention on what you have that you can give for gain for somebody else, it's a shift, and it matters, and people feel it and they appreciate it. And so I think it's hard to find, Ty, now, people who don't do things just for their own outlook. Like, it's hard to find people that are not me-minded constantly. Listen, I'm not saying that our needs are not important. They are. But we're living in a day and age where the me has so affected our everyday decision-making that the foundations of any we groups, any people that are around us and important to us, the foundations are shattering because we're just so focused on us. So I appreciate you saying that, because, you taking your eyes off of you being polished and you being, your deliverables being spot on every time, to think about what is this doing for somebody else. I think it's not just admirable, but I think it's honorable.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know that you're cut from the same cloth as I am. You want to impact people's lives. You want to change people's lives. And that's why you compliment, like I said earlier, you compliment the past 4.5 years that we've done this. The guests that we've had on the show are like you said, and our sponsors, are giants of the industry, people that are making an impact. Mike Goldstein, Joe Huffman, Chris Hofstra, Joe, and those guys over at Lead Scout, Hook, Tim Brown, and the list goes on of our supporters and people in the background that don't necessarily want the notoriety. I mean, and that says a lot about who they are. But now that you're talking about this, I know that you're working on this, world that we're in today, and building a we first culture, and in this me first world. Let's talk a little bit about your transition, your background, and your transition before we get into that. I know you're no stranger to the roofing industry. Okay. I know you've been around it. You may not have been necessarily a roofer. Maybe you were a roofer, but I do know that you've been around the industry. So let's kind of like start your introduction there, a little background transition, and share your journey on how you're at now.
Yeah. I was raised in a preacher's home, and went to college at a Bible college in Springfield, Missouri. And I left college going into the ministry, and married shortly after I got out of college. I was traveling and preaching in different places and holding different types of meetings for churches. And the woman that I married at the time kind of got fed up with it quick, because it's a tough life being on the road. I mean, it's not easy, especially in that world. And as newlyweds and all that, it was hard. And so one day I came home and all my clothes were on the front porch, and she's standing there with her mother, which is never a good sign. your clothes on the porch, your wife and her mother standing there. There's nothing good that could have come out of that. And so she said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And we divorced. Well, in the church that I was in, we didn't actually divorce. We had an annulment. It's a totally different other subject matter. But anyway, I lost my credentials with the church that I was in, and I had to find something to do. And so I went into the insurance business and spent 24 years there. And again, after my wife of 34 years now, and I met, we married, and I had to find something to do. And I went to the, like I said, insurance business, and 15, 20 years later, I found myself in a rock and a hard place again, which I tend to do. And I had to find something else to do. And I found roofing. And so to answer your question, I literally started my roofing career on the ground, knocking doors, getting up on roofs I didn't belong on, dealing with adjusters. And I had a real keen understanding of the insurance side of it because I'd been in it for 25 years, but I didn't know what damage was. I didn't know anything like that. So I'm a dear friend of mine today gave me a shot. His name is Brandon Smythe. Brandon has Ken Elliott Roofing down in, he was in he was in Burleson, Texas at the time. And he gave me a job, and I literally just started knocking doors, and I spent 7 years doing that. So I've learned this business literally from the ground up. Ended up doing some stuff, some consulting and coaching, because I was pretty good at getting deductibles, and got contacted and ended up in distribution for 5 years. And listen, the season of my life a year and a half ago, I decided I really want to do something more in line with what's in my heart. And so I started getting more into the coaching consulting side of things, and it kind of leads me to today. And so that's kind of a brief history and background, but I run a long journey, but I think it's prepared me for the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such a great story. And I didn't know about all of the further back stuff, but I did know, and I did know that you were knocking doors and doing inspections and stuff like that. I think I knew of you in your Beacon days. So I didn't know the full backstory of the, out doing, appointments and knocking doors and stuff like that. So kudos to you, because I think we all know that's been in that position of going out knocking doors. It's not easy. It's brutal. It can be very lucrative. I think that's why a lot of people are still doing it today. And so kudos to you, and that's fantastic. And so now you're coaching and mentoring. You had a little bit of experience with that when it came to the insurance world and stuff. So let's talk a little bit about like your what are you doing now? Like for are you doing it for entrepreneurs? You doing it for sales teams? A little bit of both? Like what does that look like now?
Yeah, kind of both. The premise of what I believe is this: we have just avoided each other too long, and we've kind of separated ourselves into individual silos. We've isolated ourselves. We have bought into the notion that we can build the world that we want. And the fact of the matter is, I think we need each other more than we think we do. And so there is power, I feel, found in we that exceeds even our own individual talents and aspirations and abilities. And so, the happiest days of my life, Ty, were when I was on a team and I felt like I had people to depend on, and I felt like people could trust me and I could trust them. Most of that stuff is like not really available today. Like most people feel like I go, I do a job, I check all the tasks, and then, my purpose and my plan is built upon what I need for me. And they just kind of not really concerned about anybody around them. And I think it's created great separation and loneliness. And so my ambition is, and I believe this, we can go further and we can do more together. So the whole idea for me is, how do we compel, not command, but compel people to start moving closer together? Because here's what I know. You and I can produce things together that you nor I could do alone. Think about that. Like my wife and I, Connie, have a son. He's 33 now. And, when we got married, we decided we want to have a child. And the reality of it is, by herself or by myself, neither of us could do that. We produced, co-created something together that neither of us could do apart. Here's what I'm declaring to people, and that's this. It may not be something missing in your life. It may be someone missing in your life to get you to a place you've never been. And so when we start commingling our talents, we're able to produce things like my wife and I did that by ourselves we never could. And I think that's exciting to me, to be able to think, finding partners, finding collaborators, finding people that in our work environments or in our home environments where we go like, all right, we're going to share ourselves one with the other. We're going to give of ourselves our strengths and our weaknesses, and we're going to realize that together we can produce more than we can apart. And that creates a level of excitement. And I believe the other thing it does, it gives us a path to some of the things that many of us have been chasing for years, but just not yet attained. And I think it's found in when we are willing to come back together, and we're willing to be able to say, we is more important than me. Now, let me be clear. I don't think we means that the me's no longer matter. Your individual talent doesn't matter, because a healthy we group is because you've got healthy individuals that have converged their talents together. So the two are not separate. It's not a matter of, hey, how do we build we groups and to eliminate these individuals? No, they're reflections of one another. And so what I'm declaring out of my mouth every day is, I want you to consider, and I want you to look at, and I want you to start moving back toward each other, and let's work on things together that will produce things alone we couldn't. And it's going to open up life to you in a different way. Like my son has made a difference like he will never know in my wife's and my life. We produce something together that we couldn't do apart. And so rather than us running from each other, I'm trying to get us to come back together and to create things alone we can't.
Man, this is such a great topic, Reggie. I mean, this could apply to so many different facets
Right.
of life, personal, professional, teams, other companies collaborate. I mean, this could open up a whole dynamic of unity. I mean, I love how you mentioned it, and you brought your wife into the mix right away, first and foremost, because we talk a good bit about this, where a lot of it starts at home, right? Like the things that we practice, how we treat each other, how we're raising our children, and the principles that we're trying to distill in them, and things like that. And I can honestly agree with you too. Like, Jana, she's made me a better person. Without her, I wouldn't be who I am today. I mean, she has been the driving force that has helped motivate, get me out of bed. And it's just like, not to talk about politics, but I've often said this about, presidents, right? Like, who do you think the president is laying in bed talking to? Like, honey, I just don't think we're going to be able to pull this one off, right. And they're not even getting the credit that they're the ones that are giving the sound advice at times, or the motivation when needed, so behind every good man, there's a better or great woman. So that's a good point, Darren. I love how you started with that. And then to raise children, like what the children, both of us together have been able to raise 3 beautiful children, 3 beautiful grandchildren, okay, that are, mostly a mere reflection of our relationship together. And when you apply those principles and you take them to work, right, you take them to work and you help motivate people, and you learn to delegate. Right. That's probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced in my career, and working collaboratively with other people, and then allowing the other groups, without me getting involved, and allowing them to work together on projects that come to fruition, that they did on their own without me having to necessarily take the credit for it, and to let go in that ability. So I guess my next question for you would be is when did you come up with this epiphany? Was this just one night you're laying in bed talking with, your wife, or is this something you've always felt?
I've realized, see, life is in seasons to me, and I'm at the back end seasons of my life. And I know that, and I'm not being negative. I'm just saying I have been able to look at the past regularly for the last 2 years and go like, what do I really draw from this? Because my goal is, how do I speak life into other people that can help kind of curb the learning experience for them in many cases if they'll just apply some of the principles. And the happiest time I've been in my life is when I'm in a team environment where I don't feel like I am doing this by myself. I've always felt comfortable in team. I mean, at college, played high school, college football, and I was always the most comfortable when I was around guys that I knew shared common purpose with me. And see, that's a problem that most people face. You can have marriages that start disintegrating, and I think a lot of it has to do with the way we make decisions. Now, let me just give you a couple quick stats. I don't care if it's business and I don't care if it's home life. Foundations in relationships start crumbling when we have leaders who function with the notion first of how does the decision that I'm about to make affecting me. I see that in home lives. I see guys that are wondering why their marriages are falling apart, and it's because the only thing that matters is the decision they made and how they gain from it. It's all about the me, not the we. And for you to build a sustainable business or a sustainable family, you have got to take your eyes more and put them more on others and the people that are in the group that matters to you than you do on your own, for your own gain. And that's a hard thing to do. I read Forbes magazine did an interesting article the other day that I wanted to just share with you because, the issue of talent is not in question right now. Talented people are everywhere. And most businesses that are hearing us, they've got talented people. The problem is collaboration lags behind. Recently, Forbes put this article out that said that 86%, almost 90% of people at work today say the reason they struggle at work is for two reasons. Number one, poor communication. And number two, poor collaboration. We don't talk. We don't work together. Think about that in the home life. Where things start coming apart, we just stop talking to each other. We talk at each other. We don't talk to each other. Collaboration. So if we don't talk together, how are we going to work together? So Forbes said this is the 4 indicating results that we see out of that. Maybe people don't talk. They don't work together. First thing is they have seen a measured decrease in profit, not revenue, of 21% because people don't talk and they don't work together. The productivity, Forbes said, is at there's a 64% loss in productivity. Think about that. Like, because we don't talk, we don't work together, our productivity decreases. They said that project failures are up 30%. What does that mean? That means you can sell it, but if there's not good communication and collaboration between you, the back office, the front office, and the production team, they're going to be failure around us. It's increased. And here's the saddest one they said is 41% of the workplace today, employed today, has their head on a swivel looking for another job because we don't talk and we don't work together. And so the issue is not we need more talent. The issue is we need to be more effective in our communication and our collaboration. Because here's what's happened. When people talk and they collaborate, they sense belonging and they don't leave. And they become organically more productive in the workplace. And so for me, it's about how do we get people talking? Because I get calls from guys about marital issues, like talking, just like, not because I'm a counselor, but just like I've had some. And so, one of the first things I tell them is just analyzing, are y'all talking at each other, to each other? How effective is that? Is it leading you to being able to work through your problems together? So I think it wasn't an epiphany for me. It was just a progress of learning to go like, oh, wait a minute. Why are we seeing this, and this? And I want to figure out the point backs. And I think that I figured out the two primary ones are poor communication and lack of collaboration.
Wow. You touched on so many good things there. And this is something that I've been guilty of: lack of communication, lack of collaboration. you know, at home, at work. And if I was it's something I'm working on all the time and getting better. It's a skill, I guess. And fortunately, it's a skill that I can get better at if I choose to work on it. And today I am. So how would one, if I was a new leader and I'm, you know, whether I'm in management or I'm starting out in business, how would one start to apply these things? Like, where would I start? If I wanted to make a change today, Reggie, what would I do? Just go in,
there's a couple easy things. So let me start with the easy things. Number one, inside of a company or inside of a home, it doesn't matter. You need to analyze what you're celebrating. So what happens to most is that we celebrate individual accomplishment and achievement. Mm-hmm. And we overlook, see no value, or make any type of celebration regarding team wins. So the first thing I would tell people to do is start looking for, as small as they may be, where people came together and accomplished something together, whether by choice or you put them there, and celebrate that. The more we focus on individual celebrations, rewards, and that's where people's mind's going to stay. So if I'm going to be successful at this company, I've got to stand out as an individual. It does not produce collaboration. It does not create longevity. It just creates a house full of superstars. And there's nothing wrong with superstars, but one of the best ways to next step this is start celebrating, looking for, and identifying team wins. That's a big deal. The other thing that I would suggest is you have got to create space inside of your company where people feel safe to talk about what's separating them from wanting to work with somebody or your management team, and give them the ability to talk about that without fear of repercussion. Mm-hmm. I've been in more meetings than I can tell you where people said, just tell us what's on your mind. And then people start going like, oh, okay. And then they start throwing up this stuff. And the next thing you know, they've been judged, and they've been in some cases even, there's been repercussions for that, to where maybe they've lost a job or they've lost a relationship or whatever. People don't feel safe to talk. Here's the problem, Ty. Most of the challenges that are separating us are below the surface, not above. Think about that. These are generally root issues that keep us from wanting to communicate and wanting to collaborate. It's below the surface. Nobody wants to do the dirt work. Mm-hmm. Get our hands in the dirt, expose what is absolutely causing the problem, feel like we can talk through that without being judged and harshly reprimanded or whatever. And it's identified, and then we figure out a way to get past it. And so the second thing I would say is you've got to create space where people can actually talk about and create plan to bring us back together. And you can't do that if people are going to shut down and shut off. And that's what they do. And then the third thing is, I think people need their opinions not just heard, but considered inside of organizations. Like, I don't care what role they're in. Mm-hmm. Those people feel isolated because their opinion, their consideration, their thoughts is never even asked of. Just go do your job, man. Like, go do your job and don't worry about it. And the fact is, there's a lot of missing talent, good ideas, and strength brought to organizations, but people don't feel comfortable sharing it. You're the leader. I'm the task guy handling all the tasks. You tell me what to do. And so my point in that is, give people air. Let them talk and contribute, not just at a task level, but at an input level. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything nor implement everything, but listen to this, seen and heard creates a sense of belonging. And if you want people to stay, let them feel like they belong. And the way you do that is if their voice is heard and you celebrate these wins that I've talked about the way I have.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And again, that's a skill in itself. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with being okay with me and confident in my skill set, and not feel intimidated by other people's opinions, and that it's my way or the highway. And again, it's just something I've worked on over the years. I've gotten better at it. And I think, and I agree with you 100%, is giving them that empowerment of allowing them to make decisions, and also leaving enough room, like you said, touched on very briefly. You said something, and I thought you were going to say allow them to make mistakes
Yeah.
as well. You got to become calloused. If you're going to be in any type of leadership position, you have to become calloused to to others, people's mistakes, because people are going to make mistakes. That's why it's called human error. Anytime there's humans involved, there's going to be error. Okay. So we have to, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as managers, we have to become okay with other people's mistakes, because you have to understand, at least for me, the mistakes that I've made over the years have always been learning experiences. And without those mistakes, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be the father. I wouldn't be the son. I wouldn't be the individual that I am today without the mistakes and the lessons that I've learned along the way. So there has to be enough room for mistakes. There has to be enough room for others' ideas to be brought to the table. They need to be heard. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And I believe it. I believe everything that you're saying. And creating that, and that's where culture is built. And I heard Craig Rochelle say this, and I say it today, and I've kind of took it from him, and I practice this, and it's two words that I heard him say that has been some of the most powerful two words that he's ever used in his organization, and that's "you decide." Allowing them, saying basically, if Vic would come to me with a question and I say to him, "You decide," there is no sense of belonging, ownership, empowerment that you could give somebody by saying, "You decide." Howie called me the other day. He's asking me all these questions, and he's our master carpenter, and we're working on a project. It's actually one of my projects, and he asked me a question, and I said, "You decide. I trust you." There was silence. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. I'll take care of it. I could feel it, and it's giving me goosebumps right now. And it's this. He trusts me to go out and do this task that he assigned me with, or the job that I know that I'm good at. It just solidified to him that I belong here, and it's not even about what necessarily the salary a person is making. That's not why they hang out. That's not why you retain them. It's not, and I learned that a long time ago. It's not always about the money. I've had high dollar people leave me because of my piss poor behavior already.
Yeah.
Okay. People only hang out so long for a paycheck. If they're not showing up and feeling that sense of accomplishment at the end of each day when they leave here, and I'm not saying every single day is tiptoeing through the tulips. We call it trudging the road to happy destiny. It is called work for a reason. Okay. But if they don't feel that sense of accomplishment, like I'm changing something, in the world today, and that's the thing. Like, we have to, as we grow and mature, the business grows, the individual, the leaders grow and mature. I think what it is that we're trying to do is, like, and quite frankly, Reggie, I get tired and I can't do it all by myself.
You've got to build culture. It takes time where you don't have to do it yourself. One of the great things about a we group is it's shared responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just Ty doing everything. Most of the depleting time most leaders I talk to spend is trying to do their hand is in everything, and they just feel like they can't, nobody's sharing their responsibility with them. Let me ask you, I want to go back to something though. You said something that sparked this thought in me. Do you remember the last time, or can you think about times in your life where you've gone somewhere around some people and been like, I just don't belong here?
Yeah, for sure.
How long did you stay?
Well,
not long.
The first time, probably too long, but the second time, yeah, not long
Generally,
at all.
though, the awkwardness exists, and unless it's corrected, and you sense like you're gathered into the core, like people start, oh, this is a new guy, and that's usually when it happens. Maybe a new person coming in or whatever. But you see, that's the power of belonging. If you don't feel like you belong, you will not stay. You will only stay till you find what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the leadership training skills that I think is overlooked and not trained enough on is, how do you create a culture of belonging? And then You create it by standards and people use the word culture all the time. You know what the word culture means? It's shared values, beliefs, and structure. And so if people don't buy into your culture, you're not going to have to get rid of them. They will move on. But until you get to that place where you can promote and you can create a sense of the right people belonging. Go back to your example a minute ago when that guy called you, and you said you choose. Do you think you could beat him away with a stick right now? I mean, that dude is with you. Why? Because you trust him. He belongs here. And I'm telling you, if I'm ever asked again, that's one of the things I would really speak on is leaders understanding the power of belonging. If people don't feel like they belong, they're going to leave. They don't leave statistically over money or benefits. They leave dramatically over the issue of, I do not feel like I belong here. Most marriages end because somebody don't feel like they belong anymore. It's the same categorically anywhere you go. No belonging, I'm out. What are we doing as leaders to develop that sense of you belong here? I validate you're here. Here's the reasons why. Here's what we do. Thank you for your contribution. Now let's move on. It just doesn't happen enough.
No, I love that. I love that so much. Because this is something that I continuously work on a daily basis. This is the stuff that I get out of bed for. And we've had people come into our organization, and they become our family, at least here. We don't call each other employees. We call each other, co-leaders, co-workers, teammates, things like that. Mostly everybody stays, and we've had a couple left, and there may be a couple that might leave, but those that stay, grow, right? And we're of the growth culture. They grow personally, they grow financially, they grow professionally.
Yeah.
They are not the same person when they arrived here, and those that might leave, they take those tools with them that we show them, and hopefully with those tools that they receive after they come through these doors, that they go out and they impact. And I hope they make $100 million, to have that impact. But I can honestly say that those that have come through here, and I'm not saying that to that's because of my own growth and my own passion for growth and personal development. And I want to see those around me strive and have goals. And I want to hear their goals. I want to know what they want to accomplish in their life, their dreams and their aspirations. And then this is the thing. It's like our dream. I think Ed Milet said it one time, our dreams have to be big enough for their dreams to fit in. But I want to take that to one step higher. Our legacy needs to be big enough for their legacies to fit in. And how we do that is not by restraining them and putting dumb rules in place and no, you can't do this until I approve it, or whatever the case might be. We need to teach them how to think, not necessarily what to think. We need to teach them how to think on their own devices with the tools that we've provided for them, so they can go out and do the job. Because if they're good at their job, they're enjoying what they do, the company grows, and it gives more opportunity for just as talented people to come into the organization.
So watch this. I think that there's two characteristics that help shape what you're saying that I want to share with you guys. The first thing is this: to get to that point, there has to be effort made to create clarity mentally. Like, people need to understand clearly what's asked of them, what they're buying into, and the obligations and responsibilities that come. Just real clarity. I mean, and we're not really clear, and so people get confused, right? The second thing is we lack emotional balance and maturity. I mean, guys, just like, and I'm one of those guys who at times I've let my emotions drive me to a place that's created separation with people because I just had to have my way. And so I think one of the things that great leaders do is they install effort and time and training into how do we create message that is mentally clarifying, and it creates, and we teach and train to how do we develop not just their skill with their hand, but their emotional abilities to be able to perform the task we're asking of them. And that's not a big ask. We just don't look for it. Like, and me and you both have friends that do, I call them action heroes. Like they can go in and they have these sales, you bring them in and they can turn your sales guys around. And they give them great actions, new actions, whatever you want to call it. But the problem is an action is precipitated by a thought and a feeling. And if we don't focus at all on the way people are thinking and the way people are managing their emotions, their actions will be unpredictable. So if you really want to change the output of somebody, it's not starting at the hand level, like doing stuff. It's about how are you thinking about this? How do we need to position this in a different way so you can get a different outcome? And in our bodies, it's just proof. When you think something, the next thing that happens is there's an emotion that's attached to that, a feeling that comes with it. Think clearer, manage emotions more properly, then the actions you take will produce a better result. You've got to start with the way people think and the way they feel, Ty, or you just have them doing more of what you don't want in the first place. Think about that. If you've got people that are doing things and presenting and creating results you don't like, what do? We just get them more active with their hands. What sense does that make? If they're producing something we don't want them to produce, why do we want to produce more of it? We want to change where it can actually be altered, and that's in the way they think and in the way they behave. Then their hand motions will look different. That's really good.
That is good. That's so good. Now, how do you do that? Let's talk more about that.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I think you have to commit as an organization. And when I say organization, as a family, as a business, it doesn't matter. You've got to focus on, and that's where I think I help. So I'm helping some guys right now, is how do you see a result that you need, and how do you start wrapping mentally around and dealing with some of these, all of us have these, I call them deficits, these internal deficits. Our mind just runs and tells us these lies, and we have belief systems that we have to overcome. It takes work to rechannel and reprioritize the way we think about the simplest of things, Ty. And so, there are tools out there. I use a tool called Positive Intelligence right now that puts me through these daily exercises of constantly reprogramming my mind to think about things differently so that I can execute on them in a new and different way. Then the biggest problem I've had after I've had this cluttered way of thinking about stuff is I'm highly emotional. And if I'm not careful, I will react in a way that impedes my progress. I blame other people for it, but it's really me. I just haven't learned to manage my emotions. And so you have to really do concentrated training, to me, on those two areas. Not just, hey, we're going to meet together today and we're going to, and we're going to talk about our scripts, and we're going to talk about when they knock the door, meet the adjuster, all of those action items. They're good. But what about this? What if we had a different mental picture and a different emotional reactions to adjusters who show up rather than thinking like they're here to destroy us and to take money from us? And what would it do to us mentally and emotionally, the actions that would follow? That's the way you build this. There has to be time committed to being willing to go like, all right, this is about reshaping the way we're thinking about a particular task. Can we at least consider doing it a different way? Like, can we consider, how would we process that mentally? We're going to get everybody's opinion talking about this. So now we want a different action. We don't want to go up and worry about who's going to get thrown off the roof with an adjuster. We want to figure out things mentally that will create a different response, a different reaction or result. Then we have to, which we're not good at in roofing, dude. We're wild as bucks when it comes to our emotions. And most people are telling us, you got to fight, you got to hurt. If you don't win, you're going to lose. And it just makes us emotionally frayed. And so you just have to spend time focused on how do we, and this is kind of some of the stuff I do with teams and individuals, is how do we create a different place mentally? How do we create more control mechanisms emotionally so that we can actually create different outcomes in what we're experiencing? It's like anything else. You have to train it, you have to spend time with it, and you have to commit to it.
That's so good. That's so good. And I like how you were talking about you were referring to it as tools. And I've been taught and I've studied some things too. And what it has done for me is it's created what I call my tool belt.
Yeah.
And not every tool I'm going to use every single day, but they're in there in case I need them, just like anybody's toolbox, right? You don't always use every tool, but I always keep the toolbox in the back of the truck. Right.
Yeah.
And so with these tools that you're providing people, contractors, leaders, managers and stuff like that, what is a good exercise or tool that I can pull out when I'm feeling emotionally threatened by an adjuster? Like, what do I count to 10? Like, what do I do?
That's a great question. So I call it the power of pause.
Okay.
There is power in pause. When you feel it, you feel that rush, that adrenaline. I mean, just like, oh God. And then before we stop, we respond. Like it's just a bam, it's a reaction for us. And you start learning how to pause just for a moment, to clear your mind, to let oxygen get to your brain, for you to start seeing. But see, we're programmed to believe aggression is our best path. And so the pause makes us feel like we're getting taken advantage of. I'm here to say today, it's untrue. You are better suited to stop, pause, and quiet yourself for a minute before you respond, because you're going to, I mean, there's neurological issues here too. Like when we get into that heightened state of like, oh my God, it's fight or flight. We're going to fight about this, or we're going to flee from this. Oxygen starts being lost and shut off in the brain, and it makes us react in a way that probably is not going to be the outcome we're looking for. So I tell people, look, you're going to feel it before you say it. And if you can stop it before you say it, reflect, get quiet, and just give yourself a moment, chances are you're going to reduce some of the mistakes we generally make, in my opinion, in conflict situations. Just pause. The power of pause. And it's hard. God, is it hard? But you have to practice that in situations where you can't always, you have no idea when conflict's going to happen. I'm driving down the road, some dummy pulls out in front of me and boom, it hits me. I'm like, oh, pull over. All right, what? Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to pause here a second. I got in the car. I'm driving down the road. The chances of somebody cutting me, I have to prepare myself for that. So I go into the day thinking like, there's probably going to be conflict coming along. I need to prepare myself now to realize, not that I can assure myself that I'm always going to act the right way, but my first thought is, I feel emotion, I pause. Like, whoa. So that would be, I think, a way for people to learn to cope with this. And it's not easy, dude. Many of us have been built over years, our response. It's just natural as breathing. And so to have to go back in and to dig into ourselves and start reprogramming the way we think and feel, it's tough. And that's why most people don't do it, Ty. They just don't want to work. They don't want to put the work in it's going to take to create a different result. So what they do is they pile in more action, hoping the result changes, and they're only fooling themselves.
Yeah, no, I love that. And a lot of it has to do with self-esteem and unresolved issues that weren't dealt with, that could have took place generations ago, decades ago. And that's where, the self-mastery and the self-improvement is not just physically, right? It's a lot of mental stuff that are unresolved or not dealt with. And what I liked about your little exercise that you were describing, that can be applied in any situation. It could be work life, home life, at the grocery store, driving in the car, that the power of the pause. And I don't know how many times I've put my foot in my mouth and have behaved poorly. And I think it was the moment where I've actually was able to see myself in somebody else and their behavior. And I was like, wow, I wasn't, they're an idiot. My reaction was wow, that's me. I've looked like that before. And it took that to happen for me to open my eyes and realize, like, oh my God, I sound just like that. Oh my God, I looked and have behaved just like that. And I guess the point of talking about this is, not everybody has to go as many years as I've gone.
No.
Acting out, behaving poorly in professional settings, personal settings, and things of that moment of that type.
So watch this. Watch this. If we're a part of a group, a we group who's interconnected, we've converged, we're really acting as one. You know what'll happen? You'll do it once, and then somebody in this group that you're accountable to will call you on it because it's not benefiting the totality, the sum. And when we get into a tight-knit we group where we're functioning together to gain ground for us all, you have to expect someone to confront you and someone to hold you accountable. And then eventually there's another something that happens inside of us that goes like, oh, wait a minute here. Now, if I act out like this, my wife used to tell me this all the time. You are not invisible. When you go out, you represent us. What you do represents us. You're not invisible. This ain't just about you. And so I would encourage people, kind of, I know we're wrapping this up, but I would encourage people to think about this. If you're really wanting a level of progress that you and your business have never seen before, you have got to do it through a combination and through a convergence of your talent that you have and getting them to start breathing together, thinking together, working together, being on side of each other together, and being accountable to each other with a shared purpose and outcome. And create this sense of a culture and a community where people belong. It's not like your show. It's like we got to move from that, in my opinion. And so I think, and I'll say this in close, Ty, there's three things that I think are really critical that are, from a benefit perspective, we cultures create. And that the first one is this, again, I said it earlier, but it's like shared responsibility. How much pressure this takes off a leader when they feel like there are others there that are sharing not just the responsibility, but the purpose. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And I'll take my part of the responsibility, Ty, as my leader, to help you move forward. You can't do that by yourself. I know a lot of guys that are leading like that now. They're just trying to do everything themselves. The second thing that it does is it creates this amplified impact effect. One person's efforts are limited. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack about that. But together, our impact multiplies. When we start coming together, our ability to impact a challenge in front of us skyrockets. And then the third thing is, I think, when we're able to converge and create these we groups where common shared responsibility is there, we have a path to sustainable growth. Like working together, we have this tendency to build things that last longer. And so if you're sitting out there hearing this and taking that, my God, if am I going to lose my identity if I become a part of one of these groups? No. Because the group is made up of the individuals. Like it's just, how do we commingle? And my goal, and then I'll shut up with this, Ty, is this. I want to help be a part of leading the way where people will realize we can do more and go further together than we can apart, as families, as businesses, as communities. And if people, and then I know the shifts that it takes to go from me to a we environment. And I help people kind of get a hold of that, to understand that, and then start practicing that. And the last thing I'll say is this: it's hard work. It's just hard work, because to your point, some of this root system in us is deep for years. It's been passed on to us. And so for a leader, To think this is hey, Reggie gonna come in, or we're gonna start doing some things and it's gonna be fixed next week. It's a mistake. You got to first convince people to get their hands dirty, go to work, and identify what the real problems are, and then find a path out. And so I'm excited, man, because I think I'm partnering with some people now to do some things that I know I can't do by myself. But I think what it's going to manufacture is something that helps people that is not available in the market now, because we have built something and created something together that I think ultimately answers questions that people are having.
Wow. Good, man. This has been good stuff. And when you were sharing there, what kept going through my mind was as long as you set the mission, create the vision, and then have the goal, as long as the team understands that 3-step process, and as long as we, as me, speaking of me, can stay out of the way, because I'm the only one that can ruin this thing when that momentum is there. And you're talking a lot about momentum. Once you build that momentum and you can get out of the way, and everybody's cohesively working together, and they're communicating, and they're collaborating on projects and tasks, and all these things, like, the only person in that room that could possibly ruin that is me. And I've done it. I've seen the faces in the room after me saying something so stupid. And I know a lot of my team's watching this, so I gotta be honest here. I can't come out here and be somebody that I'm truly not. But this is, again, talking about the skills, right? This is a skill that every single individual under the building, under the roof, any roof, household, commercial building, whatever, has the opportunity to work on this, working together with other people, because there is more security in that. And I think where some people get jammed up is that if they're afraid, if they divulge too much information, now it becomes a job security risk. And it's the exact opposite of everything that you just said, Reggie, is that the cohesiveness of working together, you are going to 10x the goal every time and shoot for another goal, raise that goal higher. When you can collaborate with more people on the mission, the vision, and can hit that goal in light speed time, and move on to it. And again, going back to bringing more people into the organization, having more impact on your local communities and those that work with you, it's a really cool place to be. And I know where you're at, Reggie. It's a good place. And I got so much more to learn about it myself, but it's because of, I selfishly bring people on the show so I can pick your brain and become a better human being myself. And really, that's what this has become for all of us. So then I can implement something that I've learned from you today, and keeping an open mind, having an open mind, learning from our mistakes, including others, giving them the empowerment that we so badly seek, and a lot of times not even knowing that that's what we're seeking, is that to be a part of something big, and not necessarily always big, but just being a part of a team and a family.
Belonging. Yeah, it's just about belonging.
The sense of belonging. That's exactly what I was looking for. That sense of belonging and that safety and security. Like, that is our job as human beings. I don't care what position you hold, but it's that feeling of being a part of something, right? And growing with other individuals and learning from other individuals. And that was something I wanted to talk about too. Like, when you're learning more from your team than your team is from you, that's when you have a genuine culture. And that, in a nutshell, is what it's really truly about. Before we get off here, Reggie, what is one last thing that you want to leave somebody entering into the entrepreneur leadership management position? What is one thing that you've learned over the years that you want to leave with them that they could implement today?
So Chuck Toki, friend of yours and mine too, said something the other day that stuck with me that I never heard. He said this. He said, Reggie, always put the cookies on the bottom shelf. I'd never heard that before. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? He said, make it clear, make it concise, make it simple so that people can buy in. Here's what I would tell an entrepreneur. I would tell anybody this. the more open, transparent, and willingness to create a sense of belonging, no matter who joins you, is going to propel you to greater heights than you will ever be able to do by yourself. Right before I jumped on this show today, I was on a call with a guy who for 20 years has been one of the most successful people I'd ever seen. And guess where he finds himself today? Alone, by himself, because no one ever believed that without him, this thing could work. He didn't believe that. And so people would come and they would go, and he's frustrated. And so I think what I would leave your audience with today is this, guys: creating that sense of belonging at home, creating that sense of belonging in work, and giving people the sense of empowerment in terms of, like you said, you make the decision, you make the choice, takes us to a place where synergy, where cohesion, where communication, where collaboration thrives, and growth happens way beyond what we can do ourselves. And I think that advice will lead to the ability to face challenges together and overcome them and find the success all of us need and want.
Amen to that, man. God, what a great episode. I think I'm watching this one over again. I'm serious, because this was so good. Reggie, you dropped so many good golden nuggets that will last for generations to come. The steadfast advice that you had given me and everybody else that's listening out there, man, like, you can implement all of this stuff today immediately. So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you. We're at our hour mark here. Thank you for everybody watching, tuning in. If you didn't catch the whole thing, man, I would highly recommend, and I'm not just saying that, I would highly recommend checking this out on the replay. Don't forget to like, love, and subscribe. And until next week, take care of each other. Yes. Stay safe out in the world. And Reggie, thank you again so much.
Thank you. My honor.
Yes. Thank you so much.